I found a 35mm scan of Blade Runner, and this one is different because with some film scans you're looking for clarity, with some you're looking for colour, and with some you're looking for that cinema magic where the image suddenly looks less like a file, more like an object. Blade Runner isn't really about clarity. If anything, Blade Runner is about the opposite. It's about haze, smoke, rain, neon bleeding into darkness, faces half hidden in shadow. A future so overbuilt and exhausted it looks like it needs a lie down and a very strong cup of tea.
You've got a little boy. He shows you his butterfly collection, plus the killing jar.
This isn't a clean future. This is the future rotting in public.
I take him to the doctor.
And in 35mm, the rot feels real. The thing about Blade Runner is that it's barely a movie sometimes.
Suddenly you realize there's a wasp crawling on your arm.
I'd kill it.
I mean, obviously it's a movie. There are characters, plot, replicants, trench coats, Harrison Ford looking like he's been woken up from the worst nap of his life.
Ex-Blade Runner. Ex-killer.
But really, Blade Runner is weather. It's rain, it's smoke, it's light cutting through dirty air. It feels like that every building has been sweating for 40 years. That's why a 35mm scan matters here, because the world of Blade Runner doesn't live in clean detail. It lives in layers. The foreground, the smoke, the backlight, the shadows, the signs, the tiny bit of production design hiding in the corners, like the crew were being paid per pipe.
This enough?
Yeah.
A modern clean image can show you the set. A good scan makes you feel the air between you and the set. And in Blade Runner, that air is basically the main character. What hit me with this scan is how much the grain does for the city, because Blade Runner is so dense that the image can become flat if handled wrong. But with the film with grain moving over the image, the city feels alive again, not sharper, alive. The lights pulse differently, the shadows have movement, the rain feels physical. The neon doesn't just glow, it bleeds. That's the word for Blade Runner in 35mm. Bleed, because everything bleeds into everything else, like smoke into smoke, rain into glass, people into crowds, memory into machinery. That's the whole film, and the scan makes that feel less like a theme and more like something happening inside the image. One of the reasons Blade Runner still looks better than half the futures made after it is because it doesn't look new, it looks used. That's the genius. The future in this isn't just shiny, clean, minimalist nonsense where everyone lives in a glass box and owns one chair. The future has layers of history. Old buildings with new technology bolted onto them, crowds packed into streets, screens everywhere. It's futuristic and ancient at the same time, and 35mm is perfect for that because the film itself has that same contradiction. It can show you the future while feeling old. And that's why the scan works so well. You're watching a future that was imagined in the past, captured on film, scanned decades later, compressed through the internet, and somehow it still feels more convincing than a lot of the modern digital cities built with infinite pixels and no soul.
I watched sea beams glitter in the dark near the 10-house gate.
Because Blade Runner doesn't need to look clean to feel real, it needs to look lived in.
All those moments will be lost in time, like tears in rain.
And this scan, it does.
Time to die.
It looks like the future has been smoked in. And then there are the faces. This is where the scan really gets interesting, because Blade Runner is a movie obsessed with the question of what's real. So when the image has texture, the question feels stronger. The replicants don't look like clean sci-fi objects. They look physical, sweaty, fragile, slightly unreal but completely present. Rachel's close-ups have this softness and glow that feels almost dreamlike. Roy Beatty looks like he's been carved out of grief. Pris looks like a punk doll left in the rain too long, because if Blade Runner becomes too clean, it risks making the replicants feel like design. But with texture, they feel like ghosts trying to become people. That's the big thing with this scan. It doesn't just make Blade Runner look better, it fits the soul of the film, because Blade Runner is about uncertainty, and film texture is uncertain.
You're watching television. Suddenly you realize there's a wasp crawling on your arm.
I'd kill it.
I've seen things you people wouldn't believe.
It moves, it shifts, it refuses to sit completely still, and that's why it works so well in this world.
I watched C-beams glitter in the dark near the 10-house gate.
The whole movie is asking what separates the organic from the artificial, and the scan itself becomes part of that equation. You're watching a physical image of an artificial world, a real film print showing fake humans who might be more human than human. That's why this one hit me, not because it was the cleanest, not because it had the most detail, but because the imperfections felt thematically correct when the grain starts feeling like subtext. So yes, this 35mm scan of Blade Runner blew my mind, but not in the same way as the others. It didn't feel like finding a cleaner version, it felt like finding a version with the dirt put back in the right places. The smoke felt thicker, the rain felt colder, the city felt heavier, and the faces felt more haunted. And for Blade Runner, that matters because the film was never supposed to feel like a perfect future, it was supposed to feel like a dying one. A future built on memories, advertisements, machinery, exploitation, the light reflecting off wet pavement at 3 AM. The cleanest version of that world is not always the most truthful. Sometimes you need the grain, the haze, the bleed, the dirt in the image, because in Blade Runner the future doesn't shine, it decays beautifully, and in 35mm you can almost see it breathing.